On a dusty street in rural Kenya, Achieng arranges loaves of bread at the small wooden counter of her family's shop. Across the road, Richard removes his hard hat, sweat glistening on his pale forehead. He crosses the street, asking for a bottled water. Their eyes meet for the first time. Everything else fades. Day after day, Richard leans on the counter, buying small items he doesn't really need. He stumbles over Swahili words, making Achieng laugh softly. She begins to anticipate his visits, smoothing her dress before he arrives. Their conversations grow longer, their smiles warmer. One evening, as Richard stops by the shop, the sunset paints the sky orange. His voice softens. I look forward to this place more than the sight. Because of you. Achieng blushes, lowering her gaze. A spark flickers, undeniable now. Months later, Richard kneels on one knee in front of the shop, dust on his trousers. Villagers watch curiously. Achieng gasps, her hands trembling as he opens a small velvet box. "Marry me." Her eyes well with tears. She nods. The crowd erupts in cheers. Drums echo. Achieng, adorned in red and gold African attire, dances into the courtyard surrounded by singing women. Richard, wearing a traditional chiton shirt, sits awkwardly but smiling as elders bless the union. The two worlds merge in laughter, song, and celebration. Achieng steps out of Heathrow Airport, suitcase in hand, wrapped in a thick coat. Richard waits with flowers, smiling wide. He hugs her tightly. For a moment, everything feels like a dream come true. Achieng cooking in their small kitchen, serving ugali to Richard. The two laughing over coffee in the living room. Richard teaching her to adjust to cold weather, wrapping her scarf outside. For a while, happiness fills their home. Weeks later, dinner table. Achieng serves stew. Richard frowns. "This is too spicy. You Africans, you don't know how to cook properly." Achieng lowers her eyes, whispering, "I'm sorry. I'll try again." Richard snapping at Achieng, "You're so dumb. My children are smarter than you. Look at those hands. Like a monkey's." Achieng silently crying in the bedroom, phone pressed to her ear, whispering to her mother in Kenya. One night, the shouting escalates. "You ungrateful bitch." He slaps Achieng hard across the face. She stumbles, clutching her cheek, eyes wide in shock. Silence follows, broken only by her muffled sobs. Weeks after the first blow, the violence becomes routine. Richard grabs Achieng by the neck, shoving her against the wall. She gasps for breath, eyes wide in terror. "You think you can leave me? You're nothing without me." Achieng's trembling hands, clawing at his grip. Achieng sits on the bed, bruises hidden under long sleeves. She whispers into the phone, "Mama, I don't know how much more I can take." Her mother's voice crackles with worry, pleading for her to stay strong. Trembling lips as she forces herself not to break down completely. Her brother's voice trembles. "Baba is gone, his heart, he couldn't take it." She collapses to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Days later, Achieng lights a small candle for her father. Richard storms in, "Stop this nonsense. You're so dramatic." He kicks the candle aside and slaps her across the face. Achieng collapses, sobbing not just for her father but for herself. Late night. Achieng stares at herself in the mirror, bruised cheek, swollen lip. Her eyes are empty, but a spark of determination flickers. "If I stay, I'll die." She slowly packs a small bag. The night is silent. Achieng tiptoes through the apartment, clutching a small bag. She pauses at the door, listening for Richard's snores. With trembling hands, she unlocks the door and slips into the cold night air. Down the empty street as she disappears into the darkness. Finally free but terrified. Inside a women's shelter. Other women murmur quietly in the background. She stares at her hands, shaking, bruised, but finally her own. For the first time, she breathes without fear. Weeks later, Achieng receives a thick envelope. Inside, divorce papers. Her eyes well with tears, not of sadness, but of release. She signs the documents, her hands steady. Her name scrawled boldly across the page. Achieng walks into a small shop, smiling nervously as she greets her new co-workers. She arranges items on shelves, her movements tentative but filled with quiet determination. Her smile fragile but real. Months later, Achieng sits in a sunny park, journal in hand. Children play in the distance. She lifts her face to the sky, smiling genuinely for the first time in a long while. I lost so much, but I found myself.